What's up, everyone? Matt Walker here. I'm the Next Gen Director up at Valley Life Church Tremonto, and I just want to welcome you here tonight. Also, if this is your first time here, it's so great to have you. We love first-time guests. We love being able to connect with you and your friends and your friends' friends and your friends' friends' friends. So if this is your first time here, let me know in the chat by saying, "Hey, Matt, it's good to see you. This is my first time here," and I will personally send you a $10 Starbucks or Dutch Bros gift card. I don't know what you like, which one's better. I think it's drip coffee, but people say Starbucks or Dutch Bros. So let me know which one you want if you're new, and I would gladly send you a gift card to there to welcome you. So tonight we're in our 4th week of our new series, and our series is called Faith in the Face of. And we're looking at the lives of different people in the Bible who have had unbelievable faith. You could say unshakable faith in very difficult circumstances, so that you and I can be encouraged by them. So we're looking at these people, looking at their experiences, and we're going to leave encouraged by these people. But I don't want you to just be encouraged. Like, if you come and you leave and the only thing that's there is you were encouraged, that's not a win for us tonight. I want you to be motivated. I want you to be moved. I want you to be able to look at these humans in the Bible, these real life humans, and I want you to see their incredible faith in Jesus and know that you can have that faith in Jesus right now. I want your faith in Jesus to radiate a changed life, to show a changed life, because your ultimate faith is in Jesus. See, Hebrews chapter 11, verses 1 through 2 says this: "Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. For by it, the people of old received their commendation." See, as your leaders, we want you to be assured of the hope you have in Jesus. Have assurance in Jesus. Have hope in Jesus. We want you to be convinced of things that you have not seen yet, or maybe will never see yet. And we want you to be encouraged by the people that had this kind of faith that came before you. That's why we're looking at this. If you were to look at chapter 11 of Hebrews, you would see that it is basically a list of people from the Bible who had amazing faith in God. And we could have picked so many different people and their lives to study. But we picked 5 people. We said, hey, let's narrow it down. Let's do a 5-6 week series. And so here are the 5 people that we're going to look at. We've already looked at Joseph. Then we looked at Moses. Then we looked at Joshua. And this week we're looking at Ruth. And then next week we're going to look at Paul. And for my new peeps, like the new people in here, let's do a really quick recap, catch you up on the previous 3 weeks. We want you to be caught up. This is going to go pretty quick. So if at any point you have a question or a thought or something, jot it down and shoot me a text this week, and I would gladly discuss that with you. So week 1, in week 1, we talked about Joseph and how Joseph had this unbelievable faith in the face of injustice. I mean, the dude's brothers, Joseph's own brothers, own blood, sold him into slavery, right? He was sold into slavery because of jealousy, because Joseph was the favorite son. And then we also saw that after being sold into slavery and bought by a man and being his servant, he got accused and convicted of a crime he did not commit. And because of that, he got tossed into prison. And on top of all this, the people who started on this injustice, who did this to him, who did the injustice to him, forgot what he even looked like. Yeah, later on we saw that years down the road, Joseph's brothers, Joseph was faithful through this whole account, and he was put as second in charge of the whole land. And his brothers came to ask for food, and they did not even recognize him. And through it all, Joseph maintained his faith in God. And then week 2, my homie, my twin, Zach, he's not actually my twin, but we look alike. My buddy Zach, he talked to us about Moses, and Moses had faith in the face of unbelievable power, the power of a holy God, the power of the most powerful man in the world at that time in Pharaoh, and even the power of the group he was leading. But through it all, Moses maintained his faith in God. And last week, Tyler told us about Joshua, who had faith in the face of the impossible. Joshua was asked to follow in their footsteps of Moses and lead the people. And shortly after he took over, he was given the task that appeared impossible. He was given a task that appeared completely impossible. Joshua had faith in the face of these impossible tasks, and God made the impossible possible. But sometimes we won't be dealing with unbelievable injustices like Joseph, or have to confront huge powers like Moses had to, or be asked to complete an impossible mission like Joshua. Sometimes you and I will be asked to do something far less worthy of writing a story about, but just as challenging to have faith in the face of. Sometimes we will have to have faith during hard times. And that's what we're going to talk about, faith in the face of hard times. Have you ever just been going through something hard? Like it just seems to be constant. And you find yourself asking, God, are you there? Like, God, where are you? And maybe these hard times are not the kind of hard times that would make the headlines on the news, but for you in your personal life, day to day, they are stinking hard. Maybe these hard times involve your family. Maybe it's like your parents divorced and you know what it's like to grow up without a mom or a dad. Like that's hard. Maybe it was a death of a family member, a close friend. Maybe someone in your home got cancer or has cancer, is fighting the battle with cancer or lost the battle to cancer, or they got COVID. Maybe your mom or dad is losing or changing their jobs. Maybe it's home life doesn't seem secure right now. Or maybe you had to move from a neighborhood that you really, really loved to a place you really don't know. And on top of that, maybe it was during a pandemic where you can't even meet new people, or it seems almost impossible to meet new people. See, these are hard times. And maybe you're like, that's not me. Well, I got you some more. Maybe these hard times involve your school life. Maybe you're getting bad grades, or you didn't do as well as you wanted to on a test. Maybe you don't make it on the sports team that you tried out for, or can't be on the sports team because there's no sports during COVID. Maybe the friends you were closest with begin to drift away from you and you feel like you don't have friends anymore. Or maybe you're just struggling to figure out where you fit in. Any of these hitting home? Let me know in the chat. I would love to know, like, hey, what's hitting home with you? Maybe you've never experienced hard times. Some of us haven't. Maybe life has been completely perfect for you, pretty good for you. No complaints really, going good. But honestly, in my experience, eventually something's gonna go wrong. Something unexpected will come and cause a struggle in your life. It's just how life is. Life is hard sometimes. Sometimes life has a funny way of pulling the rug completely out from underneath us. So how do we have faith in the hard times? How do you and I have faith? An unshakable faith in hard times. How do we, as our verse in Hebrews 11 say, have assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things unseen? Well, we're going to look at that tonight. And we have a really good picture of what this looks like in the Bible through the story of Ruth. The book of Ruth is found in the Old Testament and was written about 1,000 years before the birth of Jesus, although what actually happens in this story actually happens earlier than when it was finally written down. Like sometimes stuff happened in the Bible and then someone would come along later and record it. The book of Ruth only has 4 chapters and really focuses on 3 main characters. And I love how God's word will sometimes give us a really big picture, like in the book of Proverbs or Romans, and other times we'll zoom in super, super close on the stories of a particular people. So the 3 characters in this book are Ruth, and that's who's going to be encouraging us today. We're going to look at Ruth, and I'm hoping and praying that you leave encouraged by Ruth's face. Then there's this character named Naomi, and Naomi is Ruth's mother-in-law. And then there's this dude named Boaz, and we'll find out who Boaz is. This book really shows how Ruth's faith in the face of hard times encourages and leads to the transformation of her mother-in-law, Naomi. So let's go ahead and start diving into the text and get some background on what's happening here. So if you have a Bible, open it up to Ruth. It's in the Old Testament. If you have your phone, power it up, go to Ruth. We're going to be in chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. I'll give you just a couple seconds to get there. Ruth chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. All right. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man of Bethlehem in Judea went to sojourn in the country of Moab. Sojourn just means to go wander there for a little bit. You're not really moving there permanently. You're just going to go there for a bit and try to survive during this famine. The dude probably would have had flocks and servants and everything, and so trying to keep him and his family alive. So he goes to sojourn in a different country, the country of Moab. He and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi. And the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion, and they were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of one was Oprah, and the name of the other was Ruth. They lived there about 10 years, and both Mahlon and Chilion died, so that the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband. So sum that up real quick. Elimelech and his wife Naomi moved from Bethlehem to this country of Moab. They have 2 sons. One marries a woman named Oprah, and the other marries a woman named Ruth. Elimelech died, and then 10 years later, both sons die, leaving Naomi alone with her 2 daughters-in-laws. And this brings me to my main point, or not my main point, my first key point. Hard times are hard because they are unexpected. Let me say that again. Hard times are hard because they are unexpected. Naomi certainly did not expect her husband to die when they moved to this country. That's just not something you're going to expect, right? And 10 years later, neither Naomi, Ruth, or Orpah expected the sons to die as well. Now we have 3 women living in this land at a time when women were basically unable to provide for themselves with no husbands. It's not like modern times where a woman can go out and get a job and bring home quite a bit of money, right? You needed a husband, you needed to be married in order to survive. The basic survival instinct, you needed a husband, and they don't have husbands anymore. None of them expected this to happen. None of them wanted this to happen. And of course, most of the hard things that will happen in your life will be unexpected too. It's just going to be unexpected. You're not looking forward or looking to have hard things happen in your life, right? But they just kind of do. And if you're like, yeah, probably not, Matt, come on, that's not true. Okay, just think about what's happened so far in 2020. Really, nobody expected COVID-19. And even when it came, we didn't think it would come to America, right? We're like, oh yeah, that's, something over in another country. It'll never get to America. And even when it got here, we didn't expect it to impact our day-to-day lives. We didn't expect schools to shut down. We never expected or even heard the term social distancing. We didn't expect mask mandates or that debates would come from them. Should you wear a mask? Should you not wear a mask? If she doesn't wear a mask, what does that say about her? If he does, what does that say about him? We didn't expect this. We didn't expect the financial burdens this would place on people and families. Look, I'm talking to y'all. I know that COVID has completely wrecked a ton of us. It's hard, and we didn't expect this. None of us expected COVID to hit. But it did. And I'm going to be honest, it's hard. But one thing that we do know about hard times is that even if we did not expect them to come, we certainly have to deal with them when they get here. You can't just roll over and go back to bed. COVID's gonna be here. We have to deal with it. And I can tell you that never in a million years I imagined a scenario where I would have to meet with all of you online. If I could take you back to January of 2020, not even January of 2020, August of 2019, I would tell you that I had a completely different vision for what this year was gonna look like. I didn't expect us to be on online youth group or have to do Zoom meetings for our family groups or even to social distance. I don't enjoy social distancing. I miss all of you. I love hanging out with you. It's why I work here, because I get to hang out with y'all. None of that was even remotely part of the plan. And I'm sure none of what's going on was part of your 2020 plan either. You probably planned some awesome spring sports, your senior prom, summer vacation, promotions, Zona Camp, all sorts of other things. And I would imagine online school, online youth groups, social distancing, and masks weren't part of that plan at the beginning. But as I said, as unexpected as hard times are, we still have to deal with them. So how do we react when hard times come? What do we do when the world pulls the rug out from underneath of us? Experience has taught me that the only thing you can expect about hard times is that eventually they will come. Which brings me to my second key point. Hard times will come unexpectedly, but how you deal with them is up to you. In the story of Ruth, we really see two ways to deal with unexpected hard times. See, Naomi deals with hard times with despair. She gets so upset that she decides to leave Moab and return to her hometown. And she tells her daughter-in-laws to return to their hometowns. Don't come home with me. I'm going back to where I was, and you go back to where you were. She decided to deal with the hard times on her own. Not only does she try to send her daughter-in-laws away, she actually ends up blaming God. Naomi's attitude towards this whole situation is summed up in chapter 1, verses 20 through 21. So Ruth chapter 1, verses 20 through 21. She, being Naomi, said to them, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi, when the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me?" Those are some harsh words. Don't even call me my name anymore. God's dealt harshly with me. But then we look at Ruth, and Ruth deals with hard times with faith. Ruth has incredible faith through this terrible, unexpected situation she finds herself in. Even when Naomi is blaming God and urging Ruth to leave her, Ruth is resolved to stay with Naomi and have faith that God is in control. She has put her faith in God, and that even if she doesn't fully understand it or can't fully grasp it, she knows at the end of the day, God is in control. Just look at how Ruth responds to these hard times in chapter 1, verses 16 through 17. But Ruth said, "Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you, for where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God." That's huge. Ruth just said, we're going to go back, and, I'm going to make your God my God. That's how much I believe in him. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you. These women dealt with a hard situation in two different ways. And just like these two women, you have a choice on how you respond to hard times. You can choose to face them alone or face them with others. Naomi wanted to face them alone. Ruth wanted the presence of others. Look, y'all, this group is here in part to help you with this. Your leaders, your family group want to do life with you and to share not only in your joys and excitements, but also in your sorrows and your hard times. You can choose to blame God for the situations you're in, or you can choose to trust God and that he has a bigger plan for you in your life. You can blame God like Naomi did, or you can trust God like Ruth did. So, point 3, hard times can lead to greater faith in God. Just like every other character we have studied in this series so far, we see in the life of Ruth the growth of her faith. Her faith continually grows. It gets stronger and stronger. She stays with Naomi. She follows her to a foreign land. She crosses a border to an unknown land. That's huge, y'all. Some of y'all have moved across states and felt like what it is to be almost a foreigner within Arizona, right? It's weird, it's hard, it's uncertainty, but she had faith. When they get there, there's no one to provide for them. So when they finally get back to Naomi's homeland, there's no one to provide because they don't have husbands anymore. And again, at this time in history, women without husbands were pretty much forced to beg and pick wheat in the leftover fields. See, a lot of people grew wheat and they would go and pick it. And so then the widows would come in after the workers have gone through and pretty much cleared everything out and just pick up the scraps. And we see that Ruth does exactly that. She goes out amongst the people who could have harmed her for not only being a woman, but a foreigner. And she picks wheat to provide food for not only herself, but also Naomi. We see this in Ruth chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. Now Naomi had a relative of her husband's, a worthy man of the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after him, in whose sight I shall find favor." And she said to her, "Go, my daughter." So she set out, went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the clan of Elimelech. See, Ruth was putting her very life at risk by going out to these fields. She's a foreigner and she's a woman by herself. But she had faith, and that faith was growing. She made Naomi's God her God. She had faith in God, and it continued to grow. While she was in the field, she met a man named Boaz, who was related to her father-in-law. Eventually, she demonstrated unbelievable faith by asking him to be her guardian redeemer. See, in this time, a woman whose husband had died could have another man be her guardian redeemer. Basically, that man would agree to take care of the woman in place of her late husband. We see this in chapter 3, verses 7 through 11. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came softly and uncovered his feet and lay down. At midnight the man was startled and turned over, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. He said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I'm Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer." And he said, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. You have made this last kindness greater than the first, in that you have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask, for all my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman." It took a lot of faith to do this. Boaz could have said no, or even worse. But Ruth had faith, and that faith grew. Will you allow faith to grow in hard times? Will you allow your faith to grow in hard times? And then, as we're reading this story about Ruth and her incredible faith and her incredible trust in Jesus, in God, in Naomi's God, we see something truly amazing happen. Ruth's faith, as it blossomed and grew and got stronger and stronger and more concrete, her identity was in Christ, right? As it grew, it leads to the transformation of Naomi. Remember back a couple chapters ago, Naomi was blaming God and angry and bitter. So this brings to another point. Faith in hard times can lead others to have faith. You having faith in a hard time, you putting trust in Jesus in hard times, can lead others to put their trust in Jesus. Listen to what this says. Ruth chapter 4, verses 13 through 16. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife, and he went into her, and the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then the woman said to Naomi, "Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you to this day without a redeemer, and may his name be renowned in Israel. He shall be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age, for your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is more to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him." Oh, who is more to you than 7 sons who has given birth to him? Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her lap, and became his nurse. Ruth's faith led to more faith, which led her to Boaz, who eventually married her and redeemed her, which led to Ruth having a son, which led to Naomi now having a purpose as the baby's nurse. And now Naomi has also been redeemed. Now Naomi has faith in God. See, our friends and family and classmates, our little brothers, our little sisters, our older brothers, our older sisters, our cousins, our family, see how you and I deal with hard times. They watch and see if we turn inward and we blame God, or we turn to our community and we put our trust fully in God, knowing that he has a plan, knowing that he loves you and I individually and cares for you and I. When you respond to hard times in faith, you have the opportunity to show others Jesus. I might tear up during this. I grew up in a very small town. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody was friends with everybody. And one of my best friend's sister died on graduation weekend. She was 18, got in a freak accident and died. It was a terrible, terrible situation. Felt hopeless. Then 4 years later, one of my best friends, who was this girl's brother, died very suddenly at the age of 22. He was my best friend growing up, and he died very suddenly. This was the worst possible situation. It wrecked our community. It wrecked me. I went through all the grieving processes. But through it, a friend was observing me, and I didn't even know this at the time. But he later came up and asked, "How are you dealing with this differently? You seem to have hope. Why? How? This is like brokenness and ugliness. How can you have hope?" And from that question, from that friend, through a hard time, I was able to share the gospel with him. See, my friend really asked the question, how do you have hope in this hopeless situation? And I was able to say, because I have faith in Jesus and who Jesus was and what Jesus did, and that I will see my friend Dylan again in heaven. Having faith through hard times, your friends are watching you. See, Ruth was faithful in the face of hard times. She chose to trust in God in spite of everything bad that was going on. I chose to and still choose to trust in God. Yeah, I miss my best friend, but I know I'm going to see him again. That faith allowed Ruth and me to be a part of something so special. If you have a Bible open, I want you to open it up to Matthew chapter 1, and I want you to look at it. This chapter lists the genealogy of Jesus, basically Jesus' family tree, and it traces Jesus' genealogy all the way back to Abraham. Remember, God made a covenant with Abraham, and he said, "I will make my people of you, my people out of you, out of your name." Abraham, the father of many nations. And if you look in verse 5, I hope you've, Matthew chapter 1, open up, look in verse 5. You're going to see a name of a woman who has a book of the Bible, a book with 4 chapters that talks about her faith and how it led to more faith and faith of her mother-in-law. You see, that name is Ruth, who gave birth to a son named Obed, who had a son named Jesse, who had a son named David, who became the king of Israel, who eventually led to Joseph, whose wife was Mary, who had a baby named Jesus. And Jesus came to save the world. You see, every story in the Bible and every sermon that we preach in this youth group and on this stage on Sunday morning leads to Jesus. It is Jesus we want you to have faith in. It is Jesus whose your leaders will point you to in hard times. It is Jesus who will redeem you and save you and keep you and hold you and protect you. The whole story of Ruth points to Jesus' bigger story to us. See, way back at the beginning of the Bible in Genesis chapter 1, we see that God created the heavens and the earth, and he calls it good. He created everything. He created man and woman. And at the end of all of his creation, he takes a rest day, a chill day, probably watched a little Netflix. Not really, but you get the point. And he said, this is good. He marveled over it. But then just a couple chapters later, sin enters the world because Adam and Eve disobeyed God. And that sin broke the world. And from there, we were separated from God. We did not have the perfect relationship with God that we had before. And so because they sinned, you and I are born into sin, and we are naturally born separated from God. And we always say that sin equals death. Where there is sin, to atone for that sin, you need death. That's why in the Old Testament, they had the sacrificial system. That's why they had to kill bulls and goats and doves for their sins. But that wasn't a perfect system. See, Jesus was the perfect system. See, later in the New Testament, Matthew chapter 1, it starts listing that genealogy of Jesus, and we see Jesus come into the scene, come into the picture. Jesus was born of a virgin, his mother, and he lived a perfect life, and he healed a ton of people, and he dropped some straight truth bombs on people. I'm telling y'all, if you haven't read it, go read it. Like, Jesus knows his things. But that's not the ultimate reason he came. The ultimate reason he came was to reconnect us to him, because we are sinful and sinners can't save themselves. We need a sacrifice, and Jesus was that perfect sacrifice. Jesus got up on a cross and died. He was convicted of crimes he did not commit and died on a gruesome death on the cross, was buried, stayed dead for 3 days, and then on the third day he rose and defeated death with him, defeated sin by raising from the dead. And Romans 10:9 says this, because if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. If you say, God, I am a sinner, I can't save myself, you died for me, would you please forgive me? I put all my faith in you. It says God will save you. Jesus will save you. Jesus' words are true. So whatever situation you're going through, however of a hard time it is in your life right now, you know at the end of the day, if you are God's child, he has a plan for your life, and that you can have faith in hard times. Have you put your faith in Jesus? Put your faith in his death on the cross and faith in his resurrection and defeat of sin. If you haven't, I want you to tonight. I want you to pray to God and ask for forgiveness and ask him to be the Lord and Savior of your life. And if you just did that, I want you to type in the chat, hey, I'm a Christian. I'm a brand new Christian. And we're going to celebrate with you, because that is a dead life brought to life. We'll talk about this more into depth in family group. Let's pray. God, we're thankful for accounts in the Bible that we can look back on and be encouraged by. Look at great feats of terrible times, but we see people constantly choosing you, putting their faith in you, Lord. Lord, I just pray for all of our students in this youth group right now, that whatever they're going through, that at the end of the day, they would know that their trust is in you, their identity is in you. Jesus, we love you. We thank you for saving us. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, here's what's going to happen. We're going to do a song of worship, and I really do want you to sing. I say this every week. It's good. It's good to sing praises to our God. We're called to sing to him. So wherever you are, don't worry about what people will think of you. Just sing. Just sing to our Jesus. Right after that, we're going to issue this week's new challenge. It's going to be dope. I'm really excited for it. I want to see all those video submissions, so get it done. And then we're going to post some links to our family groups in the chat. So make sure you look for that specific age group that you're in. Click the link. It'll take you to Zoom, and we're going to hang out there. See y'all at family groups.